everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm here with my friend Dallas Atkinson, who is the executive director of HillVets, and she also happens to be married to an active duty Army soldier. Hi, Dallas.
Hi, Sue. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, we've been trying to do this forever because, since we started the process, you have been named the executive director. Congratulations.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. It's a wonderful addition to kind of the work at Hillvet over the last couple of years, and it's certainly something I'm very proud of, and looking forward to the next chapter for sure.
Oh my gosh, I want to talk to you all about it. But first, a lot of people may not know you. So I was wondering if you could just share your military spouse journey, your professional military spouse journey, if you would.
Yeah, I would love that. Well, hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. I'm Dallas Atkinson. I am the executive director of the HillVets Foundation. We are a nonprofit founded by a Navy veteran, Justin Brown. And our focus and all of our programming is to make sure that the voice of the veteran and the military spouse is represented in the places where policy is made. So we focus a lot of our efforts on Capitol Hill. Before I was at HillVet, I was at American Corporate Partners, another incredible and worthy nonprofit serving the military community. They're focused primarily on mentorship. And ironically, mentorship is what brought me to American Corporate Partners. So my background isn't connected to the military community at all. That's not what I did or planned to do professionally. So I was in my 30s when my husband, actually the weekend of my 30th birthday, my husband walked across to me in a coffee shop, and we were married like 30 seconds later. So, like most military spouses, my career trajectory sort of took like a hard left there as a 30-year-old established professional. And I didn't work for several years. I
Yeah.
also didn't see my husband just long enough for him to leave and to find out that we were adding to our family and like rinse and repeat, as many know how, you know how that goes. And so, my journey to serving military spouses and veterans again did come through mentorship. So I utilized the incredible programs like Hiring Our Heroes. I went through the Hiring Our Heroes Military Spouse Fellowship Program. And I was able to spend several months looking at all of the different organizations in this industry, if you will. Again, my background at that point, having gone back to work after many years, was in corporate America and specifically Lululemon, which is very distinct culture. It's a very unique company if you're in corporate leadership there. And so I struggled to get it to translate. We moved from Boston to DC. I knew this was the heart of serving military families and making decisions on behalf of them. And I wanted to get involved. I had no idea how to do that or what that looked like. So I utilized resources. I utilized a fellowship. I met an incredible mentor. She's this just remarkable woman. Her name is Jen Hines. She's the chief of staff of Recruit Military, where I spent several months in a fellowship learning what it looked like to be a part of the ecosystem serving military families. And for there, that launched really my career. So, long story long, fast forward now 2 years at HillVets, and I feel really good about the programs we've built and the way in which we continue to serve both military families as a whole, but their future by way of the work we do on Capitol Hill.
It's amazing to see you now where you are now because I think we met when you were transitioning from ACP to HillVets,
Yeah.
and you came and you did a fly-in with us with NMSN. So that was really cool. It's been really fun to be on the front lines of watching you grow. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey to become the executive director of HillVets? Was it something that you just went right into, or was it something that was more circuitous? How does one become an executive director?
Yeah, well, this is my first time in this role. So, with a grain of salt, I don't know how everyone else becomes one, but it has been a fun journey for me. So, when I joined HillVets, and I'm going to give you a little bit more background because I think it's relevant to the spouse kind of career journey.
Sure.
I had been recruited, if you will, by a couple of different entities, and I was interviewing simultaneously for them, and they were very different opportunities. And I was in the final round of 5 interviews for this very intense kind of high level role over here on my right hand. And then HillVets on my left. And a lot about the other role made sense. It was kind of the right career trajectory. I'm in Washington, D.C. with a mortgage, so that salary, like,
Right.
that's important, right? We're not like working for love anymore. And it really didn't make a lot of sense for me to take the role at HillVets. HillVets is a small organization. I've been the primary full-time employee running the organization over the last couple of years. We have incredible support elements, and I don't want to discount our amazing contract help. And we're really well resourced in that way. But it's been me primarily, and it's a lot more. It feels far more entrepreneurial than the established, sort of rigid organization that I was interviewing simultaneously. So all of this to say, it doesn't always have to make sense. I knew looking at HillVets that I could grow. I knew looking at HillVets that I was going to have the balance of um, touching a lot of different types of work. It doesn't take anyone longer than 30 seconds to realize I am probably not the woman you want behind a spreadsheet, but put me at your like high top cocktail table with donors, right? Like, we've all got a skill set. Mine is not a lot of certain things. And so it's been really wonderful for me to take that role and see how I truly have been able to touch a lot of the different work that we do, and hopefully, grow it for the better. Um, so to get to executive director, to answer that question directly, you know, I'm grateful for the trust our founder has placed in me. Ultimately, we are a smaller organization and thus a smaller team, and I do have the benefit of getting to interface with the founder of my organization on a daily basis and get inspired by him. And he still touches all of our creative process, and so you know getting to know him was part of taking that role. Seeing the type of leadership the organization was founded by and was being run by was part of the reason I took the role. And our continued work has really shown me that it was the right choice. Our goal was always for me to kind of take over in a full-time capacity. And it really was a journey through the last couple of years to get to the point where I felt like I could truly be entrusted with someone who has spent 15 years building. You get that. You're an entrepreneur. And so for Justin to get to the point where he could fully entrust me with this organization that he is by blood, sweat, and tears kind of, grown over 15 years is really special. I'm really proud of it.
Well, basically, you came into the organization, so you weren't parachuted in right into the position. You came in, you paid your dues, you developed the relationships, and then you developed that trust, and then you were fleeted up. You stepped into the executive director role because it was a good fit.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And to be honest, for the sake of this conversation in the spouse community, I don't know that I had all of the parts. I don't know that I was 100% ready. I think I'm really great at what I'm really great at, but I needed to focus on some things. And so I loved that I had the relationship, the coaching from a leader that helped me grow, that helped look at my kind of full capability and say, "You're awesome at this. We want to get you a lot of this kind of stuff. Let's work on this," and giving me the chance. Spoiler alert, fundraising is hard in these streets these days. And so that's not the focus of someone who loves their mission and loves their people. We really have to be told to zero in on that. So
No, that's awesome. It must feel good. It must feel good to be an organization that's willing to invest in you and wait for the right person. That's awesome. So
yeah.
one of the things that, you mentioned though, is that you have to keep yourself open to unexpected opportunities, right? So I know that you said that at one point you were juggling like 5 opportunities. How do you decide which one you'll say yes to?
You know, I say this with the disclaimer that, we are at the end of a military career in my husband. So at 25 years, we're at the end of a career where he has some authority and some flexibility over his schedule. And so I want this to be taken, I want to say this respectfully, but this is a season of life where I am really focused on work that matters, not necessarily the provision from it, you know? I think we've said over lunch before, Sue, it's working for purpose and not out of necessity. And that's a different set of decisions. I want to be really honest, right? Like there
Yeah.
were times in our active duty family, where Pete was in a deployment cadence and I wasn't working and we had two babies, and $500 would have made the difference for us.
Right.
And it's not that we are responsible financially. It was that we were in South Florida and we had babies and we were living on one income,
And it's
right?
expensive.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, had I had the ability to work at that point, which I didn't because childcare, I probably would have worked. I would have made the decision that paid the bills
Yeah.
but, had the flexibility. At this stage in life, it's really important to me to build a career that's making an impact. I really believe in the power of our lived narrative and the spouse and veteran voice as it relates to how we write policy, how we create the laws that govern our land. And I believe that we need seats at those tables. So the longer I spend in this work, the more it very much has become really my calling, in that all of the fragmented experiences I've had professionally have all come to fruition to make me the best possible fit to lead this organization right now.
No, and I think that's I don't think anyone could take it too badly, because I mean, you say what's on your mind, and it just seems like what you're saying is what I've heard from a lot of people, which is the way that you determine what is a good fit for you changes depending on your family situation, like op tempo, and really your service member's career, right? Like if you're at the beginning of the career and you know that you have a good 20, 25 years left, you're not going to be as maybe aggressive, or you're not going to be as assertive in what you pursue, or like if you have young kids at home and you're paying for childcare to work, that's a different situation, right? You're not weighing it as, oh, what's the most meaningful? Like, yes, I want to do something meaningful, but it also has to pay the bills, and it has to include childcare for two. Or I totally get that, because I think that when our son was younger, I would have paid someone to work, but like I couldn't afford the childcare. Like I wanted to work so badly, but I could not afford the childcare because we lived in the middle of the country, and with the degrees I had, the kind of jobs I was eligible for, like they weren't going to pay me enough to cover putting him in childcare. So it's like, okay, so now, like my husband's deployed, I'm away from my child, and I'm not making any money to bring home. What is the benefit of that? So I absolutely get it. And I love that, like now, like you were saying, I think your kids are older, and your husband, is senior enough to where you have the luxury of, doing what you feel called to do, which I think is great. So, I mean, it just sounds like you're saying that the work aligns with your values, it'll help you grow, and it helps you make a meaningful impact for other people. And that you're also saying that you have the luxury of doing that because you're in a financial situation where you can.
Well, that's right. And I can also go into office 5 days a week. Not always necessary,
Yeah.
at this point, but of course, 90% of my professional years would not have been years that I could have been in a space full
Right.
time like that. Not with any consistency, because we've also moved
Right.
far more often than sort of the average. We've had a really, really transient, my husband's had a really unconventional career. And so absolutely, I don't ever want to dismiss how difficult it is, because it is a privilege for me to get to drive into Washington, D.C. and go to work in our capital every day. And up until this time here in Virginia, as we're getting settled and looking at retirement, that would not have been possible.
No, I think it's awesome. I love hearing from people who are from, from the beginning of their career to, toward the transition time because you get to hear the whole gamut. And then, because like when you're beginning, you're like, it's never going to be my time. So it's kind of cool to hear from someone who it's your time and
Yeah.
you're prepping for the transition. So this is a great segue to my next question. Because, you have been through so many transitions and you have moved more frequently than most people who are able to stay for 3 years on station, right? So how have you been able to maintain career continuity through all those transitions? Do you have any tips?
Well, I didn't for many years, and that was very hard on a family that moved nonstop. I went back to work the years that both of our young children were in full-time public school. So that magic kindergarten year for your
Yeah.
youngest, I think so many working moms can relate to. Um, you know, I think it's important to honor the work that's paid and unpaid, particularly amongst military spouses, right? Like we are the volunteer force that keeps the world running from every perspective, from every organization. And so, I want to mention that I think what is most important, even if you're not in a phase of life where you are working in a full-time capacity, I would just suggest and challenge spouses to be intentional about what they are doing. I don't care what that is because I get it. Like deployments and babies and sick parents. And I completely understand. But um, spouses are incredible and we do so much. And those hours volunteering, fundraising at your FRG matter if you put them on your resume.
Yeah.
Those were the years that you weren't working, right? But those were years that you were developing incredible leadership skills and incredible, all of the things that we gather in our daily life as we serve our communities. And so I was really intentional. And I really believed that at every stop of the way, I stayed really active and I tried to do work that mattered, however that took shape in the community that we were in. And I think because of that, I have been able to draw the strength of each one of those experiences to the point where I really do rely on every role I've had on a regular basis. I refer back to that experience. It's really all
Yeah.
has,
Strategic volunteering is key,
yeah.
especially when you're transit. I mean, yeah, no, absolutely. So I think it would be weird if we had you here and I did not ask this question, which is kind of a gimme. I think you
Uh-oh.
probably anticipate what it's going to be.
Oh no,
But
okay.
so I know that, like, because, we do a lot of advocacy work. And one of the things that's always challenging to us is convincing spouses to get involved because a lot of them are scared it's going to affect their service member's career. And a lot of them just don't understand why they should get involved because one, maybe one person being involved doesn't matter, or two, like, why would I take the effort? Why would I make the effort? It's just, like, they don't need to hear from me. Like, they don't care about hearing from me. So what would you say to those spouses? Why should they get involved? And how do they overcome their fear of hurting their service member's career?
Yeah. Well, I think that we are all advocates, right? We're friends, we're mothers, we're spouses. And there's something in our daily lives that we are really passionate about and that we have discourse about on a regular basis. And so I think we discount ourselves and we don't think of ourselves as advocates or with the ability to advocate. And it's just simply not true. I think telling an honest story about the military experience is really powerful. And um, I understand the fear of being private and being protective of a family's experience. And, I would encourage that spouse that's afraid of sharing their story to find the ways to do that in a more discreet way. There's absolutely a way to share your story and to be a part of advocacy efforts while being very, very private. You don't have to be the person on the
Yeah.
front page to sign a petition, to write a letter, to support in more quiet ways. But other than those who are afraid that those who think that their voice doesn't matter, I would just really, really encourage them otherwise because it does absolutely matter. Because there's an academic perspective that lives on Capitol Hill, and it's important. And we love the 25-year-olds from Yale that fill the Capitol building. They're incredible, brilliant young minds. But we can't only have an academic perspective on our policy. And I really believe the lived narrative of the military family is what balances that out. And I have never once been in an environment with a member of Congress or a group of staffers where they haven't been anything but overwhelmingly grateful for the voice of a spouse, for the time a spouse took, just one spouse from anywhere in the world that will take the time to come to the Hill and tell them about their lived experience. It's just really rare and it's really special. And plot twist, our congressional leaders on the left and the right and everyone in between, the ones that I interact with especially love military families, and they want to hear from spouses.
Yeah.
They just do. And they really, really appreciate it.
And they need to hear from military spouses because like the percentage of congressional members who've served in the military is lower and lower. It's the lowest it's ever been. And so it's almost like if we don't tell them about our experiences, they want to help us. They're going to come up with legislation that they think is helping us. But if we don't give them the feedback, then they're just going to assume, oh, we're all good to go here. And I also think that people don't think they can get involved if they don't live in the DC area. And that is so untrue because you have the district offices where no matter where you are, you can go there and visit them. And and I think people also think that they should only visit when they have something to complain about. And I'm like, not true. If they're doing something great, let them know. Like if you're, I don't know what you think, but I'm like, if you have, if you want to thank them for the pay raise, if you want to thank them for the childcare benefits or whatever, thank them. Like,
absolutely.
We should, and I think that's an easy way to dip your toe in without having to tell a big old story. Like, just say thank you.
Yeah. And then I think in addition to that, I'm a product of, an environment full of resources, and I'm grateful for that. And I would encourage spouses to rely on the resources around them. At HillVets, we're running a congressional fellowship program and we run a leadership group. Both of those military spouses are eligible for. Thank you very much. And those are also launch pads for people who want to think more seriously. The fellowship would be appropriate for someone who wanted to launch a career on Capitol Hill. Our leadership group has an incredible group of spouses. One of them started a food pantry. The other ran in warrior games. I mean, just like the most incredible group. But there's also those sorts of resources nationwide. So especially when it comes to advocacy, you're right. Start at the local level.
No, I love it. Thank you so much, Dallas. I mean, we kind of took a little turn there and talked about advocacy at the end, but I think it's important. It's part of your journey. It's part of our journey at MSN. So I really appreciate it. Yeah. And thank you to our friends at USA for making these conversations possible. I hope you guys will come back here next week and hear from another inspirational military spouse. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.